Breaking news as he gets set to turn 73 years old this spring, Bill Belichick is going to embark on his first college coaching endeavor. He is reportedly agreeing to a 3-year, $30 million deal with North Carolina. Our lead insider, Jonathan Jones, says this deal is nearing completion and it will get done, that Belichick has agreed to become the head coach of the Tar Heels. Their rival over in Raleigh, NC State, their quarterback C.J. Bailey was asked about the possibility of facing a Bill Belichick-led team next season.
Bill Belichick can get it too, man. We go 5 years, we go, and no matter who the coach is for UNC, we go kick them.
What would that mean to you, though, that you could potentially
it means
be
a lot.
Bill Belichick?
I can actually, that means a lot that I could play against Bill Belichick, meet him, but shoot, if he comes to play, we go kill him. We're gonna kill him.
All right. Oh, see what you wish for here next year when North Carolina and North Carolina State renew their rivalry. We've got Dennis Dodd in here for a college look at this, and we have our reporting from Jonathan Jones that this is happening, that Bill Belichick has agreed. And you see the numbers reported at the bottom of the screen. More important than the salary these days for a college head coach, Dennis, is the amount of money they can pay their players. And I understand you have some reporting on what North Carolina plans to do with Bill Belichick moving forward.
Yeah, Chris, I'm being told that North Carolina, a middling program in the ACC, let's be clear, is now investing at the highest level of college football to make this work. We're talking about money that approaches what the number Ohio State had out there of $20 million in NIL money to lure players to North Carolina. You've got a situation where the president made the decision, not necessarily the athletic director, the president and the board. The new president, by the way, is from Duke, so you add that to it. I think this can go one of two ways, Chris. You've got a 3-year deal here. It could be, North Carolina gets some Deion-like shine for 2 or 3 years. They improve in some level, but at the end of that, does this program just crater and go back to where it was? Because there are some finite limits on it. The man is 72 years old. The school just fired Mac Brown, who's 73, because they perceived he's at the end of his career. And now they bring a guy in for 3 years expecting to get to the top. What we've learned, though, Chris, in the NIL era, you absolutely can get to the top very quickly. Example, SMU, Arizona State, Colorado just missed out on the Big 12 this year. So what North Carolina has to be thinking to itself, football is still king. Despite all this basketball excellence, football is still king. And if you're not relevant when this roulette wheel stops turning, you're not going to be among the chosen few. So that's a lot of what this is about.
Dennis, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm guessing you've been covering college football for 3+ decades. Maybe even more than that. You probably were around when Bill Walsh did this back 30+ years ago. How does that compare to this? I know it's a totally different era, but Bill Walsh, a multiple Super Bowl champion, that's probably the last time we've seen something like this, is it not?
Yeah. Bill Walsh was great in his own right, but we're talking about the best team sports coach of all time, maybe. I've called Nick Saban that when he was at the top of his game at Alabama. Obviously, he's a protege of Bill Belichick. But in North American sports, we're talking about the #1 team sports coach of all time. And now going down a level of college to see if he can master that. I don't doubt his passion at all. I think this is all about coaching football again. It looks like to the naked eye that there aren't going to be any NFL teams that hire him for the second straight cycle. And he's those 14 games short of the all-time record. I think, again, he could show himself, maybe bounce back up to the NFL. But the question people have to ask is, how's this going to end? And I've already talked to a lot of people at this conference I'm at in Las Vegas. The first thing that comes up is Steve Belichick, the defensive coordinator, his son at Ole Miss, is going to take over the program at some point. I'm not saying that's bad, but I think that's what people have to look at this. This happened a few years ago when Charlie Weis was at Kansas, and he wasn't trying to get him to be the head coach at Kansas, but he was trying to get him experience so he could get a job. Steve Belichick's a hell of a coach. And if they transition from Bill Belichick to Steve, and there's some sort of excellence going on, this might be one of the greatest moves of the century going right now. So I would watch that Steve Belichick thing closely.
Dennis, talking with coaches all over the country and the way things are changing in college football, you know better than most the difficulties that these coaches, even some of the best in the game, are having with this new era, the new transfer portal, NIL. What are some of the problems that you think Bill Belichick could run into here as he tries his hand at college? Because some are saying while college has never been more similar to the NFL, this may be perfect because at this point in time, as the NFL and college converge, they are becoming more alike than ever before. Are you buying that?
More like in some ways, but it's so unregulated in college right now with the NIL space. I've talked to a lot of people just off camera, off the record, about locker room issues. There are a lot of locker room issues in NIL because you've got guys coming in that are freshmen that are getting more than 40-year veterans because they're 5-stars. And we're in this age when you pay for those guys coming right out of high school. In NFL, there's a structure. Everybody knows what everybody makes because draft spots are slotted. And when you get to that second contract, you've earned that second contract. You made plays on the field. So there's that going in there. You've got the NIL issue where you've got agents poaching these players, and the coaches have to go in. No, I don't care if you're Ryan Day or whoever. You have to go in there and every year re-recruit your roster. That's below a lot of coaches, frankly. Steve Sarkisian has said it the best in the NIL era, either adapt or die. He's fine with it. Of course, he's got a great playoff team, but I'm just going to the portal tracker today and just looking at guys at their third and fourth schools. Malik Murphy, why would he transfer? He just had a 3,000-yard season at Duke, and he's transferring? I don't get that. So that's gonna go on at North Carolina. And something I failed to mention, should have mentioned up top, Bill Belichick has little or no college experience. Now, that could easily translate. I just called him the greatest North American team sports coach of all time. Maybe Red Auerbach was better. I don't know. But maybe he can adapt to this, but we'll have to see.
All right, Dennis Dodd with us and reporting that North Carolina is attempting to fund their NIL collective, and you're going to be able to pay it out of your own pockets beginning next year, assuming everything goes through this summer, and they are trying to rival Ohio State in those kinds of payments. We have a flash poll going on our CBS Sports YouTube page, and more than half of you voting give this an A for Bill Belichick taking over at North Carolina. Again, he is going to turn 73 years old in the spring, signing reportedly a 3-year deal worth $30 million when this is all said and done. There are reports that the Board of Trustees are expected to meet tomorrow to approve the deal, but our Jonathan Jones has reported that Bill Belichick has agreed to the deal. Breaking news, and it's a big one. Bill Belichick is going to college at the age of 72. He has agreed to become the head coach at the University of North Carolina, according to our senior NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. The 6-time Super Bowl champion will take over for Mac Brown. Belichick, with 50 years of coaching experience in the NFL, none in college. But here he goes as he gets set to turn 73 this spring. We have a list of a dozen players who have played for Bill Belichick and Nick Saban. Belichick, widely thought of as the greatest NFL coach of all time. Nick Saban, widely thought of as the greatest college football coach of all time. Damian Harris is one of those guys. Played at Alabama, then 4 seasons with Bill Belichick in New England. Damian, I got to ask you, when you were playing for Coach Belichick in New England, did you ever think that he would say, you know what, let's go coach some college ball in my 70s?
Never. I never would have thought that. Just because, we all know that Coach Belichick loves to be in control. And in New England, he wore a lot of different hats. And that doesn't really translate to the college game very well. And especially in today's day and age where so many things have opened up and these kids have so much freedom. So I definitely cannot say that I saw this coming. But here we are. A lot of crazy things have happened this year in college football. And here we are again, Coach Belichick coaching college ball. So
what are your questions? Like, if you were to sit down with Coach Saban right now, what would you like
how is Coach Belichick going to do with recruiting? How is he going to do when it comes to sitting down with boosters and figuring out deals and trying to get money to be poured into these programs? It's not just about coaching these kids. You know, being the head coach of a college program, only about 15 to 20% of that is actually coaching and things to do on the field. There's going to be so many things outside of the game of football and drawing up the X's and O's that he's going to have to deal with. And quite frankly, he's never had to do that before. So it's really going to be interesting to see how he deals with it.
Damian Harris played for Nick Saban in college, then Bill Belichick in the NFL. Those two coaches, I feel like, have been intertwined for a long time because of how many titles they've won in their respective sports. Saban tried his hand at the NFL, didn't work, went back to college. Now Bill Belichick is kind of trying to do the opposite. What are the challenges that you think he might have to negotiate here going to college for the first time?
Well, complete control, because there are a lot of different factors that go into these programs. You've got athletic directors, like I said, the boosters who are pouring money into this program. You know, Bill's going to have a lot of control. That was his big thing in New England. Like, he had to control and oversee a lot of different things. And I don't know, hopefully they give him that, so it's a match made in heaven. But, you know, then he's still going to have to deal with exactly the things I just said, like keeping up with these kids. And, you know, just imagine Bill Belichick trying to keep up with kids going to class nowadays and keeping kids happy about how much NIL money that they're getting. Like I said, this is not anything that any of us would have ever predicted. So we all know that there's going to be a lot of challenges, but he obviously is ready to face them, and he thinks that he can handle them. So nobody's going to be able to tell Bill Belichick no. And obviously, if you're North Carolina, if Bill Belichick is willing to take the position, I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Damian Harris played 4 seasons for Bill Belichick with the New England Patriots. Logan Ryan also played under Bill Belichick with the Patriots from 2013 to 2016, won a couple of Super Bowl championships. We got Damian's thoughts. Logan, what are your thoughts on your old NFL coach going to college at the age of 72?
I mean, crazy. I don't think anyone who's ever played for the Patriots would have thought that this day could come. But I'm told it has. I'm told it's official. And Bill laid out a list of contingencies or a large plan if he were to be the coach of what he needs. And from what I know, it's going to be an entire coaching staff he's coming with and a front office. So I think it's crazy that, you know, Bill Belichick, 8-time Super Bowl winner, 6-time with the Patriots as a head coach, the greatest coach of all time, undoubtedly, is going down to college. But if you think about it, college is more like the NFL than it's ever been. He's coming with a front office, a GM. They're going to be paying players to play. So if you're a player that wants to go to the NFL, why would you not go to Bill Belichick, the greatest coach to do it? If you're a player that is coming from a small school, why would you not transfer for 1 season to get taught under Bill Belichick exactly what you need to learn before you become a successful pro or learn how to be a pro? So I think on the outside, it's crazy. But on the inside, if you look at it, I think a lot of these coaches will do really well because it is essentially pro sports in college now.
Yeah, it's certainly changed, especially since, you know, when Nick Saban tried this out, going college to the NFL 15 plus years ago. Damian, what would be your advice to, let's just say you're a star player on this UNC team and you're trying to decide what to do. Bill Belichick is coming in to be your coach. What would be advice that you would give the 18, 19, 20-year-old kid that's about ready to play for Coach Belichick?
To listen, because he knows exactly what he's talking about. Again, if the college game is transitioning more to NFL, more than we've ever seen it before, who can prepare you more for what that's going to be like? Who can prepare you more for the business side, the professionalism that you have to display, the aspect of showing up every day, being a pro, doing your job? Nobody does that like Bill Belichick. That's why nobody has had the success that he has had. That's why he is the greatest to ever do it at the National Football League. So if you're a kid, buy into that program, buy into the things that he says. It's not always going to be easy. It's going to be tough, but it's going to be fair, and it's going to prepare you to get to the next level. It's going to maximize your worth and your value as a player. It's going to allow you to maximize your brand and then ultimately be the best you can be going into your professional career and building your own brand as a player and as a person.
Logan, I asked Damian this a little bit ago. If you just off the top of your head think of the challenges that Coach Bill Belichick will have to negotiate as now a college head coach, what do you think the biggest challenge will be for him?
It would just be the age of the kids. I mean, he's very demanding, but to me, he keeps it all about football. There's not too many other games that some coaches might play. There's not a lot of favoritism, which Damian will tell you that. He held Tom Brady to the same standard he held a long snapper to. So I think getting 18-year-olds to understand the hard truths is going to be different because they're much younger, obviously, than a 22-year-old grown man prepared to, to feed his family. But these kids are doing that in college nowadays. They've had to mature quicker because they have to handle money sooner in life and going to have to provide and whatnot. So I just think the age group that he's coaching it at, but like I said, the more I think about this, I think he's going to thrive. I can't even imagine this. Damian, can you imagine the schematic advantage that his teams are going to have opposed to another college coach coaching against them? It will be ridiculous.
Yeah, these kids are going to have an incredible sense of knowledge that really isn't taught at the collegiate game right now. Even Tom has said it, kids aren't prepared for the National Football League the way they used to be. Well, Bill Belichick, the way that he knows ball, the way he knows the ins and outs of offense, defense, special teams, each position, it doesn't matter who it is, where it is on the field. Bill Belichick knows all about it. So these kids are going to get a sense of knowledge, a wealth of knowledge that, the college game really hasn't seen.
Belichick knows all about that, and you guys know all about Bill Belichick playing for him several seasons in New England in the 20-teens and winning titles as well. Logan Ryan and Damian Harris with us as we look at North Carolina's schedule for next season when Bill Belichick will take over for his first season. Now, they do have a bowl game coming up, and how fitting is this? The bowl game is in New England. The bowl game is at Fenway. It's the Fenway Bowl where North Carolina will be facing UConn. Breaking news, Bill Belichick is back in coaching, and he's going to college to do it. He's agreed to become the next head coach at the University of North Carolina, according to our Jonathan Jones. Six-time Super Bowl champion will be taking over for Mack Brown, who's just 1 year older than Belichick, who will turn 73 in the spring. Nearly 50 years coaching experience in the NFL, but this will be his first go-round in college. Our Pete Prisco always with a take, and on X, Pete Xing that he can't wait to see Belichick dealing with the transfer portal in name, image, likeness. But then again, he was an outstanding general manager the past 5 seasons. Oh, wait. I think he was being a little bit sarcastic, a little bit facetious. Let's get Pete Prisco in here. Pete, it doesn't seem like you're as bullish on this as a lot of the other people we talk to are. Why?
Well, I think Bill Belichick as a coach anywhere is a great hire. The problem is he brings all the baggage, and the baggage is he's going to run things his way. And you go back to New England, he won very good in New England as the general manager. Bill Belichick, the head coach, is one of the best, if not the best of all time. I would hire Bill Belichick, the head coach, right now anywhere in the National Football League. But you can't separate Bill Belichick head coach from Bill Belichick general manager. And that's the problem. And that's why I think he probably reached out, heard some things around the league, and it was very lukewarm on him because they don't want to deal with Bill Belichick, the general manager. And that's why I think ultimately he decided to take the sure thing and go to North Carolina.
And why do you think he decided to go the college route at this age? I mean, he's going to be coaching guys that are 50-plus years younger than him. Why do you think he made this decision?
Well, coaching is coaching, and Bill Belichick has skins on the wall. If anybody doesn't think those 18, 19, 20-year-old kids are going to respect Bill Belichick, they have another thing coming. The guy has earned the respect already, and he will get it from those players, I guarantee you. It's another challenge for him. It's another, potential spot for him to show how great a coach he is. And I believe, coaching-wise, he's fantastic. And again, all the minutia that he's going to have to deal with in college football, I can't see him dealing with that. He's going to have to hire a general manager to do all that stuff, but he can do that. Bill Belichick is a great coach. He wants to coach. Now he can go to the college level and prove that he is a great coach.
His son, Stephen Belichick, coached under him for a while as a defensive assistant with the Patriots. Then he went and became the defensive coordinator in college at Washington this past season. How much of this do you think has to do with trying to set his son up for future success?
Oh, I definitely think it has a lot to do with it. And look, legacy matters. And Bill Belichick had an opportunity to go to the right spot in the NFL and break that Don Shula record. I think he would have done it. He would have done that. But he didn't get the feeling that was going to happen. So ultimately, he settled on this. And instead of taking care of himself and his legacy, now he can take care of his son. He can bring him on, and part of the negotiations supposedly were that he wants him to be the coach in waiting. So it makes sense to take care of your family. And if he wasn't going to get back into the NFL, which I don't think he was going to, then I think it's the right thing to do for him and his family.
If you were to sit down with Bill Belichick, Pete, you always want to give people advice. I know you're big on that. Yeah, and you give great advice most of the time. What would you say to Bill Belichick? Because you know the college game, too. I mean, I see all the Arizona State stuff behind you. You follow it as much as the rest of us do, even though you're always on the NFL. What does Bill Belichick need to do to try to make this as successful as possible?
Find a good quarterback in the transfer portal right away. I mean, I think first and foremost, you can't win unless you have one of those guys on the college level. And I can, reference Arizona State. They got a guy, Sam Levitt, who's from the transfer portal, and now they're playing in the final, in the final 8. They get by. They're in the final 8 teams. So I think you have to get a quarterback, and he knows that. He ended up with Tom Brady. However you get him, you have to find him. He got lucky with Tom Brady. It worked out for him. But go get one at North Carolina. Here's the other thing when you're at North Carolina. Gun for Clemson. Clemson is the elite of that conference, and Clemson doesn't take guys in the transfer portal. That's something that Dabo Swinney doesn't like to do. So use that against them. Use the transfer portal to your advantage and stack your roster. Get some, skilled players, but get big on the offensive line and get yourself a quarterback.
10 years down the road, you're going to be on a beach somewhere retired. So will Bill Belichick, we think. You look back on this and Bill Belichick's tenure at North Carolina, what do you think becomes of it?
I don't think it's going to be national champion good, but I do think he's going to be potentially playoff good. North Carolina is a tough place to win. It's viewed as a basketball school, but you can have those seasons where you win, 10, 11 games and get yourself into the playoffs. I don't think they'll ever be good enough to win it all, but they can be good enough to get into the playoffs. That's how good Bill Belichick is as a coach.
Almost good enough to get into the playoffs against your Arizona State Sun Devils, perhaps. Pete Prisco riding high right now with the Sun Devils in the college football playoff. And there he is getting ready for our big pregame Sunday show at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Tommy Tran, the host. And you've got a Logan Ryan who won Super Bowls with Bill Belichick at the NFL level with the Patriots, who came on a little bit ago and thinks that he could be really successful at the college level because that college game is really becoming the NFL game. It's happening. Bill Belichick agreeing to become the head coach at North Carolina, according to our Jonathan Jones. Dennis Dodd also reporting that North Carolina is going to be putting as much money toward football players as teams like Ohio State have. They are a basketball school, but now a football school as well. As you look at the schedule for next season, Belichick's first game would be at home against TCU on August the 30th. North Carolina has a bowl game in New England, coincidentally, in the Fenway Bowl against UConn a couple weeks from now, December the 28th. Want to look at this from a recruiting and portal and NIL angle with Cooper Pategno, who joins us from 24/7 Sports. You are a self-proclaimed recruiting and portal nerd. So tell us what this means to you from that sort of prism.
Well, it's a huge deal. I mean, you think about Belichick coming to North Carolina, and in my head, I'm thinking, this can't be. You can't talk about a 6-time Super Bowl winning champion now wanting to come to college football. But the water is warm. I mean, you look at Deion Sanders, what he's been able to do in 2 years, flipping that Colorado roster around and, 1 or 2 wins away from a college football playoff appearance in the Big 12. And then the other part of this, how about the ACC? SMU was in the group of 5 last year. What they were able to do this year, they've been a portal-heavy team as well. You can make the argument, Clemson, have they plateaued? Are they moving in the opposite direction? So right now, I think the ACC is open. the temperature for this job right now for Bill Belichick. It makes a lot of sense, even at the ripe age of 72, 73 years old, however old he is. It's going to be pretty fascinating. I think UNC can be a top 15, top 20 job in the country.
Okay, well, look, it sounds like talking to our NFL people that NFL teams, while they were interested in Bill Belichick, the coach, might not have been willing to give him total control as a general manager like he was with the New England Patriots. That's kind of a new term in college football now, a general manager. But that's usually, whether it's Barton Simmons at Vandy or what have you, that's usually a different person. A general manager is not the same as the head coach because there's so much that goes into it. So how much is Bill Belichick going to have his hands in here in college?
I would imagine everything. And I think that's a big part of the reason why he's not back in the NFL and he's in college football now. And you think about how the NFL and college football, they're starting to become more and more intertwined. We got the revenue share coming next year. And I think Bill Belichick, you go back to his days in New England, you know, for him to take another job in the NFL, you're talking about a guy with the cachet of all those Super Bowl rings, as I mentioned earlier. You're going to have a pretty hard time saying, hey, you can't run it the way that you want to run it. So we've heard about, you know, the 400-page Bible or manifesto that he's put together for, you know, the North Carolina Board of Trustees. But I think that's what it's going to be. It's going to have somebody that he's working alongside with, like he had in New England with Nick Caserio, now the GM of the Houston Texans. So I think that's what it's going to be, somebody that he's had a long-standing relationship with. But I think besides that, you could see him maybe branch out a little bit. And I think he's going to have to get acclimated with the college game quickly. So they're going to have to bring some people into the fold that have been around the collegiate game, have a little better feel for what the market looks like, not only in high school, but the transfer portal as well.
We know how much Belichick's success has been tied to one person throughout his career, Tom Brady. In college football, it's becoming easier to go out and get new, different, better quarterbacks. And here are the QBs right now, ranked top 8 in the portal. Cooper, we know that there's a bunch more that are likely going to be heading into the portal before this is all said and done. But is there someone that stands out that could be a great fit for Bill Belichick specifically at North Carolina?
Well, it's ironic, right? I mean, you think about one of these young guys here, the quarterbacks, and you mentioned Tom Brady, but I think Fernando Mendoza makes the most sense. I think when you bring in somebody like Bill Belichick with the pedigree that he has, obviously the expectations are going to be sky high, and you're going to want to be in win now mode. And for North Carolina, I don't think they're that far off, and I don't think that's a crazy thing to ask, especially playing in that conference. But I think Mendoza being at Cal, you look at all those other quarterbacks, they're young guys. Luke Kromenhoek from Florida State had to play a little bit earlier than we thought. Jackson Arnold, Malik Murphy, both guys still getting their feet wet. Mendoza is a guy, played at Cal. I think this is one of the more win-now ready type of guys, and we'll see what offensive system Belichick wants to run. But this guy, super high floor, very smart, very intelligent as well. He would be the guy that kind of checks all those boxes for Bill Belichick in year one.
We've already had early signing day, and there's a reason teams like to make moves, obviously, before the playoff, before the bowl games, and all that. It's because you've got to get going on recruiting and the transfer portal. Right now, North Carolina is ranked 90th at 24/7 Sports in the class of 25. Where do you expect to see them 3, 4, 5 months from now?
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting question. I don't know what it's going to look like. I think the biggest question mark here for Bill Belichick is not so much how he's going to navigate the portal. We expect them to be very aggressive. But what is Bill Belichick, the recruiter, going to look like from a high school level? I have no sense, no feel on this whatsoever. You know, the college game is moving more towards a transactional type of environment anyway, but it's not there yet. You have to win the traditional recruitment, then you have to win the financial recruitment. So it's going to be really fascinating how Bill Belichick is going to navigate these circles of these kids who want to be loved up, and that's the type of world in college football that we're living in right now. What's it going to look like for a 16, 17, 18-year-old who's going to want to have that face-to-face conversation with a Bill Belichick, and what's that accessibility look like as well? I think those are all the questions that remain, but I would expect a surge. I think you're talking about one of the best coaches of all time, obviously a Hall of Famer as well. There's going to be a lot of buzz here, and it's a really opportunistic couple of months for North Carolina that they have to take advantage of.
Are there any parallels, Cooper, to Deion Sanders? I know Deion wasn't a coach at the NFL level, but, you know, just this guy that has no college coaching experience. Deion obviously starting at Jackson State and working his way up from FCS to FBS in major college football at Colorado. Are there similarities there?
I think all the question marks come from, well, he's never done it before. Obviously, he's done it at the highest level at the NFL, but he's never done it in college football. And what does that look like? I think what we've learned with Deion Sanders is you got to give these guys the benefit of the doubt when we're talking about one of one. I mean, these are extreme outliers when you got a guy like Deion Sanders going from Jackson State to Colorado, Bill Belichick going from the New England Patriots to North Carolina and Chapel Hill. We don't know what it's going to look like. It's an extreme outlier. So, yeah, there are a lot of questions there. But the parallels are, I think this is going to be a guy that people want to play for. Bottom line, I mean, how often do you get to go out there and say, I have the opportunity to be coached by one of the greatest coaches of all time? And Nick Saban is not in college football anymore. Enter Bill Belichick. He can make that pitch. Nobody else can.
Cooper, protecting his job just got more interesting today as Bill Belichick agrees to come to college and be the head coach at North Carolina. Thank you so much for your time, and good luck chasing the portal around in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, where they could, by some reports, have over $20 million to spend on football moving forward, maybe fivefold of what they had last season. It's changing times in the SEC and ACC. It's interesting with North Carolina going out and getting Bill Belichick. 24/7 Sports.